You said
Yeah,
one
it's like
really
fun.
interesting thing that I hadn't thought about, which is like around picking the right emotions.
Yeah.
Uh, it's so interesting because traditional entertainment would tell you the opposite, right? Like news is like basically gets you riled up for a living 24/7. You turn on the TV and they show you the craziest thing that's going on. But
It's never how we were wired. And I think people, it was great for people to make decisions. And I think, when it came to the media when I was growing up, I remember I'm a super sensitive, guy. I was diagnosed with autism when I was like in the fourth, actually, yeah, it was around the fourth grade. And I was became like if a commercial was trying to like make you feel something, I felt all the things. Like so if like there were dogs in cages and they were asking you to give money, I would run to my mom and be like, we need to give them money. Like
oh
all
my
these dogs
God,
are gonna die. Or like if there were kids or if there was whatever was going on, I was like completely overtaken with emotion. And I remember that as I got older and more grounded and realized, oh, like there was an objective there. There was a purpose for that as I've kind of gotten older and realized, oh, all of these emotions are kind of fleeting. And now that there are creators that have like this grounding energy or that will take time to explain how things work, I think people will gravitate more towards those individuals because even when you look at kind of like even with Oprah back in the day, the reason a lot of people rallied around her was because you felt like she was imparting wisdom on you. Did we watch shows like Jerry Springer and, Ricky Lake and for like the shock jock, whatever? Yes. But like, did we really remember? Like, do I remember an episode of Jerry Springer? No. But do I remember like some guests that Oprah Winfrey had on and things that I learned? Yes. So I think at the end of the day, when we're thinking about where we're choosing to spend attention, like the most of our attention, it's with the people that, again, are establishing that context, letting you know what's going on. Um, and those people I feel like are the future. And the more the media continues to try to do the same, the more they're falling out of relevancy, like even with celebrities. The more and more brand managers tell them, hey, you can't post, and it's been 5, 10 weeks, since they've posted, they're growing increasingly irrelevant. And it's just because our news cycle is just like it feels like it's like a 8 hour news cycle now, when it comes to everything that's going on.
and then there's this element, you know, over time of the longer someone watches you, the more of a relationship they feel with you, which plays
Mhm.
really well to the person that owns their own, land per se, as opposed to being on someone else's network or show. Um, like I listened to Joe Rogan when I was, at the beginning of high school. It's
Yeah.
been a very long time.
Hmm.
And he hasn't really changed one bit. He's still the same
Yeah.
person and he's
And
still
that's why when people mention like if anybody has like a very strong feeling about him, I'm like, do you listen to him a lot or did you just listen to that one episode? Because there are some episodes that I'm listening, I'm like, Joe, like you like stop. Like you are either high or you're this or whatever, like just stop
Yeah, I
talking.
mean, the guy dresses up in like costumes and drinks and smokes. Like, of course he's gonna say some terrible
Yeah,
stuff,
but it's kind of
like
like
everyone.
any friend that you have. You're just like if they have a bad day or if they have a bad take, you don't like completely destroy that whole entire relationship that you have with them.
That's
And
right.
that's kind of like how I feel about people that are consistent, online. You know, that's just, if they're providing a space for that sort of conversation or those interesting things, then like I'm there. Lex Friedman.
Everyone, you're
Lex
right too. Everyone's gonna have their moments.
Yeah, it's like Lex Friedman came on the scene and immediately started doing these longer form podcasts with all these very interesting engineer type people, conversations that like most people don't have access to as a result of just not having the network. And I feel like, if you're going back to like, the people that are listening to this, some practical information for you, whereas like if you are like with me, with Octonation, the largest octopus fan club, as a result of me wanting to build that, I have access to a lot of people that people don't normally have access to. Like, the people who produced My Octopus Teacher, or, James Cameron and Paul Rudd from Secrets of the Octopus that just filmed, or the slew of authors that have authored books on octopus. Octonation has access to those people as a result of me building this platform really big. But even in the beginning, when I was creating programming, it's like I reached out to like the soul of an octopus so that that I could create something so that other people could watch it. I started feeling like I'm the one who's responsible for curating this content in a way that more people can enjoy it, because I know that not everybody's going to go out and ask for an interview with Simon Montgomery, the author of Soul of an Octopus. Nobody's going to take a leadership role and do that because they might not be as interested as I am. And so for you, if you're listening and you want to be the Netflix or the distribution channel of like your given thing, that you can be like, okay, who do I have access to, or who do I know about that is doing really interesting things? Like even Buster with me right here, like fandom consultant. Who do I have access to that people don't normally have access to as a result of like they're busy or they don't have time to curate all the information in one place. And so I find if you truly want to do the thing that you want to do and create a community around something, all of a sudden you have to be like, okay, I'm taking ownership of the programming, and so I'm going to start creating content that I feel like my audience would be interested in. Um, and as a result of doing that, I'll create a sense of belonging for people that are just like, why didn't this exist before? Like my whole entire life, I wondered why isn't there a community of people that are obsessed with like octopuses? They're such a cool animal. And then I was like, oh, it's because nobody has taken the initiative to put a community together, and not only put a community together, but also put programming on top of that, layer programming on top of that community, and then layer collaborations on top of that community, and then layer merch on top of that community, and then layer all these sort of things that make Octonation what it is today. There's so many different, I feel like, industries that can be kind of like disrupted, as a result of you deciding that you're like, you know what, no one's doing this the way that I would do it. Nobody has the lens or the perspective in which I have. And so I feel like I'm going to do it. And to like give you an example, I was working with this one kid who he was training to be a soccer player, a professional soccer player, and he was working at a summer job. And the lift from this tire repair place fell on his foot and completely damaged all the nerves. And so he couldn't play soccer. And so he obviously his whole identity was shaken. And so I asked him a lot of questions because his mom was my friend, and she's like, he's in a really tough spot. And I said, well, what are you interested in? And I just started talking to him about his life, and come to find out he really likes sports cars, and particularly he loves Corvettes. And I said, after talking to him, we decided to create like the youngest Corvette community. And I was like, think about it. If you created this community, and you revitalized Corvettes for a younger audience, who would be interested in that? Hot Wheels, what other companies would be interested in you kind of grabbing hold of the attention of younger boys who are interested in Corvettes, and having it be like a rite of passage, their dad passing their Corvette down to them, or all of these cool campaigns that I started to think
Yeah,
about. And he, created that community.
that's awesome.
And I think had he not had that community, he could potentially have taken his life as a result of his identity being so shaken. And so it's just like there's just so many examples of like communities that I've worked with and consulted with, and it all came back down to like, what is something that is sustainable for you? What is something that truly you can create a through line from like your childhood, or something that's like you're interested in, to your adulthood? And so it's a longer conversation for a lot of different people, but I feel like most people have an idea, unless you're like super multi-passionate, then it's kind of hard, but have an idea for what their community would be and who they want to create a sense of belonging for.
Yeah, it can be, you know, like it took me a long time to figure out what I wanted mine to be for as well. So I can definitely empathize with the people who have lots of different ideas and who have some different passions. I mean, I did it for something else. I did it for basketball.
Yeah.
And I decided that I didn't want to do that every day. So for the last few years, I've had a team that runs that. And I became super interested in, the great creators, investors, entrepreneurs of the new era and the old era, and what we can learn from them. And that's how
Mhm.
the hobby letter came to be.